Welcome to Politics here on France 24, where we're going to talk about the open primaries of the Socialist Party to designate their candidate for next year's presidential election, and what the man who was the favorite to win them had to say about them. So with me on the set is Denis de Montpion, who is a senior editor with Le Nouvel Observateur magazine, John Keating, who is the chief correspondent with Kuwait's Kuna News Agency and the vice president of the Anglo-American Press Association. And last but not least, Ana Navarro Pedro, who is the Paris correspondent of the Portuguese magazine Visão. So Dominique Strauss-Kahn, yes, it's him, DSK as he's known, was on TV last weekend, and he explained what he did in that famous hotel room in New York, but he also said that he did not want to get involved in the socialist primary. And the question is whether he actually got involved. Denis de Montpion, is the shadow of Dominique Strauss-Kahn hanging over the socialist primary, or is he really a thing of the past?
I think he's clearly out anyway. He himself,
he's not in the running, but was he saying?
But even so, though on Sunday he mentioned that he was a friend of Martine Aubry, it was much more embarrassing for her than anything else, since he's pretty much out of the race now. And what is strange with Strauss-Kahn, and he was a strange hope right from the beginning. We always said for months and months that he would be a candidate, and he never show any sign of real will to run for the competition. And today he's clearly out.
But he did say on that interview that he wanted to be a candidate.
Well, today, but it's.
You don't think he wanted to be a candidate?
Well, I don't know whether you remember on TV the other night. It was said that he never showed real strong will to be a candidate. I personally always thought his wife was much more inclined to run for the Élysée Palace than himself.
His wife being Anne Sinclair, a famous French journalist who supported him, TV star who supported him throughout his ordeal in New York. John Keating, the fact that he did say in that interview that he had a pact with Martine Aubry, whereby the best place would run for president, some people say, oh, he wanted to hurt her by saying this. Other people say, well, he just does not realize maybe that his words are actually not helping her. What's your take?
I'm not sure about pact or no pact. I'm sure there was some sort of agreement. Aubry is playing down the agreement. Strauss-Kahn mentioned it kind of in passing, but he did get her name in. She's the only socialist he mentioned. And I think that Mr. Strauss-Kahn would have been better advised not to mention any of this on television in front of 13 million French watchers. He did damage to, I think, the left by mentioning it. And also, I think he would have been better advised not to say anything at all, because I think Mr. Strauss-Kahn is toxic for anybody who's running right now. People have been saying that the whole business is finished. It's not finished. There's going to be more media coverage of the civil case in the United States. There's a case in France with Tristan Bannon, who alleges he molested or assaulted her. And she's bringing a case, and she says even if she loses the criminal case or it's not put forward, she'll bring a civil case. He's not going to go away out of the media, and he's toxic. If I was a socialist and I was one of the six or all of the six running for the primaries, I would distance myself as quickly as possible and as clearly as possible from Mr. Strauss-Kahn.
Yeah, but, whatever happened anyway, he's clearly out of the race and the game just now, politically, I mean.
By association, he's toxic. I'm not saying he's going to run with anybody.
Right, okay.
Anna, do you think he is toxic, or do you think the public is now turning the page, okay, he's not in the race, so we'll forget about him? Or is it an embarrassment for Martine Aubry?
It's going to be an embarrassment for some time, for sure.
For her or for all the socialists?
For whoever he chooses to kiss.
Well, he chose one.
The kiss of death, which is a French socialist specialty since Mitterrand. I think Martine Aubry is trying to put as much distance as she can between her and Strauss-Kahn. The whole idea of a pact, it really goes down badly right now. A pact made outside of France, in Marrakesh, in a posh house. All of this in a symbolic way is toxic for the Socialist Party and for the one who will be associated to it. In this case, is Martine Aubry. That's why we've seen her on defensive this week. She's on the defensive. vis-à-vis Strauss-Kahn. She's also defensive vis-à-vis Ségolène Royal, for instance. We saw Ségolène Royal attacking Aubry very strongly
saying
on
she had
this
lied.
case, saying she had lied on the pact case. And we saw at the same time Aubry saying very nice things about Ségolène Royal. Why? Because actually anyone who is designated by the voters in the socialist primaries will need Ségolène Royal support and voters.
I want to get now to the race. There are lots of polls being taken with a grain of salt, a big grain of salt, I should say, because no one knows who is going to vote. This is an open primary. Anyone who pays €1 and signs a declaration whereby he agrees with the values of the left can vote, and no one knows how many people will vote. However, the polls shows very interesting figures. We'll have one from BVA taken this week, which shows François Hollande well ahead of the pack, 44% of voting intentions, Martine Aubry 28%, and then there's a big gap. Arnaud Montebourg, 11%, he's an outsider, and he's ahead of Ségolène Royal, who was until now in third position. She only gets 9% of the votes, and this begs the question, is this already a done deal? François Hollande is the candidate.
You can't tell, until people have voted, because
On
first
October
of all,
9th,
exactly,
actually.
you don't know how many people will go to vote, and it's true that they have to prove they have to pay €1, they have to decline their name, and therefore, tell obviously whether they're left or right. So that can make a difference. Nevertheless, in this primary, it's true that right from the beginning, François Hollande did very well because he managed to reassure people, and besides, he never promised, anything extraordinary. And considering the crisis France is in just now, it may be a kind of reassurance in a way,
Do you share that view that François Hollande is well placed? He has presented himself as a quote-unquote normal president in the making, and he is adopting a centrist stance, which is not that different from the one Dominique Strauss-Kahn would have adopted, probably, although they're not friends. Do you think that he's really in pole position right now?
Yeah, I think he's a very intelligent contender. He's managed in the past also, even in the Socialist Party, to stand out away from the pack. When the pack was running against the referendum on Europe, he stood out. And
he was at the head of the party at that time.
He stood out and gave his own opinion, which was different. This time he's managed to stay away from the fray. And there's another poll coming out tomorrow, which is Ipsos for Le Point, which shows that on a non-partisan basis, he's the most popular politician in France right now, with 54% vote of popularity, which is very high. But I think he's also managed to stay away from the DSK fray. I mean, he's avoiding press. He cancelled an important press engagement tomorrow with the Foreign Press Association, and so he's managing to play it, close to his chest, while just pushing back little attacks on him. The main attack is that he has no government experience. He was never a minister. He never served in a government, but he's got a lot of experience otherwise. And I think he's looking like, for me at this stage, like the leading contender.
And besides, he was clever enough up to now not to mention anyone else of the contender, neither attacking or Ségolène Royal or Martine Aubry, and that was very clever for the socialist militant, for sure.
He started. He really wants the job. He wants to be president, and that is very important in any race in France. He started laboring the Socialist Party about 2 years ago. He started traveling solo almost, going to every federation, to small towns, meeting people, on the basis, and really, really, really working it up very, very hard, very thoroughly. So he wants a job. This is a very boring part of politics. He wants it. Yes, he changed his look as well. We all remember François Hollande, kind of round man, plumpy.
Yeah.
And he changed his look. I, for one, had so much trouble getting used to see that man and associating that visual with the name. But now I'm used to it, like everybody else. So he did it on the right time as well. And yes, he has a more presidential stand now. We are seeing him on the studio right now, and he has a more presidential stand now. So the problem is going to be when things will get rough and tough if he is designated. We've seen that standing back, being smart, sometimes you need to go into the fight. You need to get the punches on the face. You need to stand up with blood, dropping off your nose. In France, you need to do that in order to get anywhere in politics, in order to get anywhere in the Élysée. And so far, he hasn't done it.
Well, but
But he will once Nicolas Sarkozy,
Right.
is candidate. He has no reason just now to punch anyone in the nose. As a matter of fact, no.
That was a
surprising thing today. It's when you look at the poll, it's to see Ségolène Royal, has really fallen pretty much.
she was the candidate in 2007.
And that's very surprising because she was very willing to be a president. And funnily enough, you realize that she's not good on debate. She lost in 2007 against Sarkozy on the TV debate they had between the two rounds, and again
Last week.
last week she was pathetic. Really, she was not good at all. Really,
Right, because that's the question. Some people say Hollande is standing where he's standing because he started early. As you said, he did some grassroots work, but also declared his candidacy. But so did Ségolène Royal. So timing is not everything, John Keating.
Yeah, but I mean, how many shots do you get at the big job? This is the question. Are people willing to allow her to get she got a shot and it didn't work.
François Mitterrand got many shots. He eventually
Chirac as
succeeded.
well,
Chirac as
Chirac.
well.
I think, yeah, but A, she's a woman, and B,
so what?
no, but is France prepared to elect a woman? It's not my question. It's the voters' question. And so, I mean, the problem is that I think that in 2007. That was her moment. I'm not sure she's going to get a second moment. And I'm not the Socialist Party is going to give her a second moment. But Hollande has been much cleverer. He's gone beyond. He's cast his net beyond just the socialist structure. He's also going around, as you said, he's campaigning like a French, like an American president campaigner, going around to the small country houses and areas, talking to people, meeting people, showing his face. Because he is someone who's, he's playing himself as a people's person.
What's your take on the primary? It's the first time, as I said, there's such an open primary. Do you think this will help the socialists? They're hoping that there'll be many people who go to vote and that the candidate who will be designated has a popular legitimacy that his opponent will not have. Do you share that judgment, or do you think this could end up hurting?
Looking from abroad, it's very weird, this problem with the French Socialist Party, where you have to have all this bunch of people are so highly intelligent, so full of themselves, and so convinced that all of them can do the job. And abroad, you have a party, you have a competition inside the party for the leadership, and the leader is the natural candidate, whether to prime minister or president, depending on the constitutional set. Here, it's really very, very strange. And of course, they are trying to find a way to gain legitimacy before going into the election fight, because otherwise they'll have, like Ségolène, everybody shooting at the designated candidate. That's the big problem with France. Ever since Mitterrand, that has been the problem with the Socialist Party here.
They're fratricidal. It's been this case before.
But don't you think that this could change? If this goes well, smoothly, many people go to vote, one candidate is clearly ahead, do you think they can close ranks and definitely
Anyway, the purpose of this primary was to, reach that, purpose. That means, all the candidate contender for the primary would back up the one who would be designated on October 9th. So that is clear, which is surprising that, before, we've never seen that in France. You had, politicians like Mitterrand, Chirac, Sarkozy who wanted to be a candidate. They would, manage to be strong enough to eliminate all the contender and adversary and take the party with them and, okay, go ahead. But in France, this is very new. To see, a party electing,
Is it a sign of weakness or of modernity?
I think it's more a sign of chaos. If you look at the history of the Socialist Party and the results, they haven't been very lucky. I mean, they haven't had anybody since 1988 in the premier position in France. And it's looking more and more like an American process where we go to public debates on TV. We had the same situation with the Republican. There are 9, 10 contenders, I think, for the Republican nomination. And then we go to a nomination process and a convention. And is it necessary is my question.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it is.
This is a small country. This is not a federation. It doesn't have a history of confederation and federation, with long distances to travel by horse, which is actually the basis of the American primary system. So sometimes it looks a little bit too much, yes.
So do you think this is to the benefit of Nicolas Sarkozy, who's quietly, or maybe not quietly, waiting in the wings before he throws
Well,
his
it's
hat
hard to
in?
tell because, Sarkozy has been in charge for 5 years soon, and he had a hard time.
And the polls are rather bad.
And so, therefore, I think people are really fed up with him, and they're hoping that someone else, at least, won't, ruin the institution as Sarkozy did. I mean, in police and justice, and so a man like François Hollande might be more, traditional in a way to be a president, but obviously, he's not elected yet.
And right now in Europe, we are seeing this huge crisis. And here there are many places in Europe amongst people who are in power. We have no idea what people are suffering really on every day in their houses, their jobs, or unemployed. And what is happening, you can see the elections ever since, the beginning of the year. The ones who are leaving office are not getting re-elected. Most often happen in Portugal, just right now in Denmark and other places. So this is a real worry. I mean, the people who are leaving office are the ones being taken accountable for the crisis.
So maybe that's the best chance for the Socialists to win next year's presidential election. We'll see how all this unfolds. Thank you very much to all of you, and thank you for watching Politics here on France 24. See you next week.